Hi everybody. For this video we are discussing comparing and contrasting the difference between the scientific method and the design process. We're going to summarize the last week and a half of instruction that we've had. So the materials that you're going to need are the interactive notebook and a pen or a pencil. When you get your interactive notebook, open it up to page 2 and 3. We're going to start on page 2. And you need to go ahead and draw a Venn diagram. You're going to make two big circles, 1, 2, and make sure that the middle overlaps here. You're going to label the left one design process and the right one scientific method. Go ahead and pause the video and draw those circles and label them. Alright, when you get back, the design process is it's used to design a solution to a problem. Engineers use it, and it starts with a problem. Remember we talked about the difference between scientists and engineers. Engineers create things that have never existed before. So if they are trying to solve a problem, like how do you get across a body of water without drowning, they have to create a product, like a bridge, that would solve that problem. So go ahead and make sure you write down all of these bullet points so that you have them. Alright. The scientific method is used to test a hypothesis through experimentation. Scientists use it. It starts with a question, and they experiment, or they test their hypothesis to see if it is supported by the data or not supported by the data. Okay? Scientists, in comparison to engineers, remember, try and seek information or answers to things that already exist. Okay, so if they're looking at the stars at night and they're trying to figure out what is going on, eventually they figured out that, the Earth revolves around the sun and the sun does not revolve around the Earth. This was a huge, mind-blowing thing back in the 1800s. But the point is that scientists figured it out, but it had already existed. It was already doing that already anyway in nature. I hope that made sense. So go ahead and pause the video. Make sure that you write these down. When you get back, we're going to do the middle part, which is the commonalities between the design process and the scientific method. They both have steps. They both have a step where you research. They both test. The engineers test the prototypes, the scientific method tests the hypothesis. They both communicate results, and they both collect data. So make sure that you have these written down. And when you are finished, you're going to turn to page 3. You're going to title your notes, Design Process versus Scientific Method, and use the date. I wrote this on the 19th. So you don't have to write the 19th, you can write today's date, which is the 25th. So let's fix that, 8/25/19, or not 19, 16. Okay? And what you're going to do here is you're going to write a summary explaining the difference between the design process and the scientific method. Who uses the design process? Who uses the scientific method? What are the steps for both? How does an engineer look at the world? How does a scientist look at the world? So you're going to use this Venn diagram that we just made, and you need to add what the steps are for both. There are posters around the room. You have worksheets in your work folder that should help you remember if you don't remember the steps for both. But you need to write your summary here. I don't need you to write this part down. You can just go ahead and write your summary on this page. I will be checking this by the due date that's on your activity list, so make sure that you are checking your activity list to find out the due date for this activity.